Good morning, Year 9. I hope that you have had a good evening. Sorry I can't be with you again, but I hope that this can be a good lesson. Pay attention that you've already got the notes down in your book, and then we can go on with the work as we carry on. Okay, so today we're talking about, continuing a little bit of what we talked about yesterday, talking about expanding binomial products. So remember, the binomial expression is just an algebraic expression with two terms. Okay, so it's just x plus 1, or 2x plus 3, or x squared plus x. Those are all binomials. They just have two terms. And a binomial product is something like this: a plus b, c times c plus d. Okay, where you have two binomials multiplied together. And you can actually have a binomial product of more than two binomials, of lots of different binomials. But as long as you have at least two multiplied together, that's a binomial product. Okay, so when we expand the binomial products, we can use the distributive property, which basically means the property that we use to expand brackets is the distributive property. So you can break a number up into two parts and then multiply something by each of those parts, and then add it together, you get the same result. So basically what we're saying is you multiply each term of one binomial with each of the terms in the second binomial. Okay, so each of the terms in the first have to be multiplied with each in the second. Or you're going to end up with sort of multiplying with each other. So if I change to red here, you can have a look. So basically this is how we want to do it. Remember that we spoke about there's different methods that you can use. There's FOIL. This is one way of thinking about it as well, that you can have sort of like, if you think about it, it turns out as like a floor. So A and D have to be multiplied together, and then B and D have to be multiplied together. You see, that's the first half of the floor, and then A and C have to be multiplied together, and then B and C have to be multiplied together. So what we end up with, you've got a bit of a claw shape here. But so you get A times D is AD. Again, if I turn it back, what we have is AD, so that's A times D, plus BD, plus AC, plus BC. Okay, so each of the terms in one binomial has to be multiplied with each in the other. So A has to be multiplied with D and with C, and B has to be multiplied with D and with C. Okay, so again, the order of these four terms doesn't matter, but when you have two binomials multiplied together, you're going to end up with this. You're going to end up with four terms. Now, it could be, and it's often, that then it simplifies. But the first step is you end up with four terms, and then you can simplify the expression. Okay, so this, you can remember this shape, or if I take it over here, we can remember FOIL. That's another way of thinking about it, FOIL. FOIL simply means first, outside, inside, last. Alright, so if I do another example of the FOIL method, I'll just do that in blue here. If I do it in the blue color, we'll have A plus B, I'll just rewrite it here, C plus D. The FOIL basically means you multiply the first two together. So you multiply A and C, that's the first. Outside, A and D are on the outside, so we multiply those next. Inside, that's B and C, so B, C have to multiply. And then last, B and D are the last terms, and so we end up with that. So either one is fine, and essentially we end up with the same thing. This one we end up with AC plus AD plus BC plus BD. Okay? Whichever shape, whichever form you do it, essentially the idea is the same. You have to multiply each term with each of the other ones. Okay, so maybe FOIL is a good way to remember it, or whatever method you like. So let's have a look at a few examples of expanding binomial products, or using the distributive property and then simplifying as well. Alright, so if we come down and have a look here, so a few examples. So I'll draw in arrows on a few of them, and then we'll see how we go. So let me just change the color. So if we have this, don't worry about it. So what we're doing is, so for this one we say, okay, well, first, last, outside, sorry, first and then outside, inside, last. Okay, so that's our for method. So we have equals, well, x times x, that's x squared. So we have x squared. Outside is x times 2, so that's 2x. Inside we have 1 times x. So 1 times x is just x, and last we have 1 and 2. And so that's 1 times 2 is simply 2. Now we can simplify this, and so we can say, well, x squared plus 2x plus x plus 2, well, the 2x and the x are like terms, and so we have x squared plus 2x plus x is 3x plus 2. And so that's our binomial product. We've expanded these brackets correctly, and so we get x squared plus 3x plus 2. Alright, let's have a look at the next one. Again, quickly, I'll draw in the arrows. It may be helpful. Okay, first, outside, inside, last. So we have 2x times x. Well, that's 2x squared. Then we have 2x times 3. Well, that's 6x. Then we have minus 3 times x. So that's minus 3x. Then we have minus 3 times plus 3. So that's negative 9. Because a negative times a positive is a negative. Minus 9. That equals to, well, the like terms are 6x and minus 3x. 6 lots of x, take away 3 lots of x, is 3 lots of x. So we have 2x squared plus 3x minus 9 is what we end up with. Okay? Hopefully you're following so far. So the idea is, again, take it step by step. If you're ever unsure about what you're doing, take it step by step. Make sure you're multiplying each by the other. Following using arrows to make sure you're clear about what you're doing. Okay? Let's go green. We carry on with these examples. So we have 3x minus 2 times 1 minus 2x. Okay? So again, I'll draw the arrows just for this sake. We won't always do that, but let's just do it for now. 3x times 1 and then 3x times minus 2x, that's outside. We have inside, and then we have last. Okay, and remembering that these negative signs that go together with the term following them. With minus 2 or minus 2x. So this is going to be equal to 3x times 1. Well, that's 3x. Nice and easy. 3x, positive 3x, times negative 2x. Well, 3 times 2, so it's going to be negative. 3 times 2 is 6. X times x is x squared. Then we have negative 2 times 1. Negative times a positive. So that's going to be minus 2. And then the final one is negative 2 times negative 2x. So we've got negative times a negative. That's going to make a positive. And then 2 times 2 is 4. So it's positive 4x. Now, usually when we have right expressions, you start with the highest power. So you go from the highest power of x to the lowest power of x. And so we're going to write this minus 6x squared first. That's going to be our first term. And then we can simplify this. We've got 3x here. We've got 4x. 3x plus 4x, that's 7x. We've got plus 7x here. And then the last term is minus 2. So this expansion, this binomial product, is equal to minus 6x squared plus 7x minus 2. the last one. We've got x, 3, outside, inside, last. Okay, first, outside, inside, last. So that's equal to, well, x times 3, that's 3x. X times 5x, they're both positive. So plus 5x squared. Minus 2, and bring again, we always have to take this. Minus 2 times 3 is minus 6. And then minus 2 times positive 5x. It's going to be negative. It's negative times positive. 3 times 5 is 10, so it's minus 10x. This is equal to, again, we write the first term is the highest power. So the x squared term is the highest, so we have 5x squared. Then we've got 3x minus 10x. Start on the number line, you start at 3x. 3 lots of something, take away 10 lots. You get minus 7x, and then the last term is minus 6. And so that's where we end up. So the binomial product of this, x minus 2, 3 plus 5x, is equal to 5x squared minus 7x minus 6. And so that's where we end up. Now what I'd like you to do is go through and do the work in your books. So these are the exercises, 3.02. Now, if you do a few of these questions and you think I can do these easily, feel free to move ahead. And for some of you who've covered this last year or in other contexts, go ahead and look at some of the more challenging stuff later in this chapter, and make sure you ask me any questions when you see me next week. Okay, that's it. Have a wonderful weekend, and see you later.